Greetings, my friends. Welcome to the next episode of the Mint Mob podcast. Jason here, joined by my buddy Alex across the pond in Germany. We're going to dive into the markets, the Goodfellas project, and what's going on in Web3 and your world. Alex, how are you, man? What's going on?
Hey man, I'm doing great. Just opening up here, looking at the markets today. Bitcoin went down from 99 or 98 down to 94. Now I'm not sure if it was expectable. I mean, we do see these corrections all the time, and I think Michael Saylor announced today that he's about to put a couple of dollars into Bitcoin again. And usually we see dumps on these days. So it was quite expectable. I see the market cap of the whole crypto market went down a little bit, but I also saw many altcoins going up. So in the end, the overall trend is obviously still, everything goes up. A correction here and there is normal, and it's not such a big dump that people kind of get doubts that it keeps going up. What do you see?
Yeah, I just saw that headline roll across as well. MicroStrategy, under leadership of Michael Saylor, has significantly expanded its Bitcoin investment by purchasing an additional 55,500 BTC for approximately $5.4 billion at an average of almost 98,000 per coin. Now, I think this is huge because honestly, it shows a lot of confidence in future price action, I should say. I mean, if you're buying this isn't an all-time high, but it's near all-time highs. If you're buying at near all-time highs, that tells me that you are extremely bullish on what's coming down the line. Obviously, Saylor's connected to a lot of top-tier business people, and now connected to quite a few top-tier government people who are actively talking about expanding crypto rails in government. Of course, we have Senator Loomis talking about the strategic Bitcoin reserve coming online during the Trump administration. So at this point, man, I think it's a very bullish sign, and for the market to take a pullback and for people to take some profits, again, is healthy. Nothing goes up in a straight line, at least nothing healthy goes up in a straight line. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with where we're at. I think the altcoin movement has been more positive, which is kind of funny. It seems to run counter to, it runs with Bitcoin and then Bitcoin pulls back, but altcoins go up a little bit more, which is just kind of funny. I think it's just waves of information cycling through different waves of people. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing right now, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, same. I mean, I know that many people have been waiting for altcoins to finally go up, and as many people, and of course many degens, obviously hold a lot of altcoins. I mean, we've seen meme coins doing crazy things in the past couple of months, but people still stick to their utility, let's call it utility coins. And yeah, now the money is rotating. Bitcoin is kind of staying at the same level while altcoins go up. And yeah, I saw one coin, for example, I never really had it on my radar, which is Stellar XLM, and it did like almost 5x within a couple of weeks. And yeah, that's the crazy gains you can have in the crypto space. And talking about people holding crypto, I actually saw that President-elect Trump holds over 5.4 million in crypto, which is not too surprising, as we all know he minted out some of his NFT collections, and so he holds most of it in Ethereum. And do you think that is also a reason why he's going to be the Bitcoin president, because he wants to see his portfolio to go up?
I think it was just a smart business move on his part, because when he dropped his NFT collection, that was basically outside his presidency. It was a few years ago. So he saw an opportunity and capitalized on it. I think even his wife had an NFT collection, and then they dropped it in a very smart way. They didn't have people mint on a wallet. You could actually go to a website and purchase it with your credit card, which is super smart, right? And so they did their launch or what have you. They made their money, and then the floor prices went pretty wild. So I think his net worth in crypto probably stemmed from that experience. I don't know if he's actively buying or what have. I mean, not that he needs to. Like, why would he worry about it? You know, it's not like he needs to buy crypto. I'm sure he's dabbling in it, and his son seems to be pretty savvy with podcasts and crypto and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, I think his NFT collections alone are worth that. If I look at market caps of the NFTs themselves, so not surprising at all. I think it's just a smart move, a smart business move, and of course, with the royalties set up and with his popularity, I mean, he's gonna make cash flow on that for until the day he dies.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing I saw that I mean we've all seen Pump Fun going crazy, all these meme coins released daily. And there was a little, let's call it trend, the past couple of weeks of people going crazy in their live streams, claiming to hurt themselves, and even like some nude stuff going on the platform. And I just now got the breaking news that PumpFam removes its live stream feature. Did you see that coming?
Honestly, you know how I feel about meme coins, man. So anytime I look at Pump Fun and everything that's going on over there, I immediately just tune out because it's just the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never seen more people throw more money away on more useless shit in, outside of, gambling in Vegas, watching old people smoke cigarettes and burn dimes and nickels and quarters in slot machines, right? So it's just the dumbest shit I've ever seen. I think it's going to be one of these eras that we look back on in history and people just literally scratch their head wondering why and how something so ridiculous could have taken place. But, it is what it is. And if you, if you get off on trading this crap, then hey, get off on trading this crap. I'm not going to tell you how to crypto. I'm just telling you I'm not going to participate. So if they remove the streaming, from it, or if they don't, it makes no difference to me whatsoever. I think a lot of the drama associated with, the mentality that you were mentioning earlier about people wanting to hurt themselves or start nude websites or what have you, or join OnlyFans because they need to make money to survive or to get their rent. I mean, this is the type of stuff where it's just proof positive that you don't need to be gambling your money on this stupid shit, right? So, I mean, that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's true. But do you feel like we will see a platform like Pump Fun in the next cycle still, or do you think it will be gone and it's just like a Degens play for this cycle? People who want to gamble, and it will be gone pretty fast, or do you think it will be around later?
The platform itself could survive just by converting to some sort of platform that allows you to trade, useful tokens. And I use useful in air quotes because a lot of this stuff is just garbage. But I mean, the way that it exists right now where people are just throwing, like coin after coin after coin up, like if you go to the home screen and just refresh it, you'll see a new coin created like every 5 seconds. There's no way that any of this stuff has any staying power. And so, no, if the platform has the idea that it's going to survive on this type of stuff, then no, it's going to go away quickly. But if it converts, changes its business model to something a little bit more sustainable, tokens that have a little bit more, I guess you would say, real, and I'm again, more air quotes, real utility, which is kind of an oxymoron when you're talking about meme coins, but some sort of utility or some sort of use inside of a community, some sort of, rampant, widespread adoption, like a Doge or like a Shiba, that type of thing. I mean, then, obviously they could survive and continue to make money on trading funds. But as it exists today, no, it's not going anywhere.
But do you think meme coins played a crucial role in in all these Solana price action we've seen this cycle? Or do you feel like Solana would have done the same without meme coins?
I don't think the same people buying meme coins are the same people buying Solana and holding Solana, personally. I think a lot of the people who are trading meme coins are people who are, interested in doing really risky speculative plays. And then also people who are professionals when it comes to trading, like they literally make money trading. And these are the people that you're not going to beat if you're a noob. And if you're a noob trying to launch a coin and you haven't really built some sort of Telegram channel where you're telling everybody to work in tandem and then dump on the latest group of people that comes in, you're not going to be successful there either. So I mean, for me, it's one of those two things. I don't think anyone who's thinking long term is doing much of anything here other than just kind of watching it and maybe dabbling and kind of laughing at it and having a good time.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, when you look at the top projects like, I don't know, With and Head and Dog with Head and I don't know what, all these people and these billion market cap meme coins had to, you know, like swap their money to Solana to get these meme coins. So it all stays in the same ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, I feel the same. I think Solana can stand for itself, and Solana obviously provides the best tech, especially like considering the transaction volume. Um, do you see Solana going much higher this cycle?
I think Solana can go 3, 4, 500. I think 500 would probably be where my super optimistic viewpoint would land. But again, it's going to depend on the adoption curve of Bitcoin into like Normieville. Like if Normieville starts to look more like a Bitcoin landscape, then that opens the door for people to come in who haven't done the research to buy what they consider to be cheaper coins, right? It's the same thing in the stock market. Like if you go and you buy, I don't even know like what MicroStrategy is trading at right now. Let's see, MSTR stock. Let's see, what are they trading at today? Okay, MicroStrategy is trading at $400 a share, right? And then I could look at some, company XYZ is trading for $1 a share, and the average person thinks that the dollar per share price is a cheaper stock, but they don't look at the risk associated with it. They don't look at the sort of the price earnings ratio. They don't look at any of the numbers that they need to look at to determine whether or not the price is indicative of where the stock can go or has gone. And so MicroStrategy, relative to some risky low dollar play, is actually probably the cheaper bet, depending on its price earnings ratio versus the cheaper bet's price earnings ratio. And people do the same thing in crypto. They're going to come in and they're going to look at Bitcoin and be like, oh shit, I missed Bitcoin. I can't afford to buy a Bitcoin at $120,000 or whatever it is when they come in. So I'm going to buy Ethereum for 3,500 or 4,000 or whatever it's at, right? Or Solana at 300 or 400 or 500, whatever it's at. And they'll think that they're, doing the smart thing, right? So I see the Bitcoin adoption curve really driving that because the average investor doesn't think past the moment. When I say average, I mean like the retail investor, and I should probably not even call them investors. They're just speculators coming in trying to make a quick buck. So yeah, absolutely, it could go higher, and it could really. I mean, I think 500 is the number that I'm going to stand by during this cycle, and we've got another good 3 to 6 months to see what's going to happen. I think 300 for sure. 400 is possible. And 500 would be my super optimistic number on Solana.
Do you think, like we all talk about, Biden being the crypto president, the United States,
Biden,
like building a Bitcoin reserve? Oh no, sorry, Trump, obviously. Trump, obviously. And that the United States are building a Bitcoin reserve. We all know that Trump is most likely, as he has no chance of being re-elected after his election now, after his presidential, after being president now. Do you think there is a chance that the next president, who might be a Democrat again, we don't know, can basically destroy what Trump is trying to do?
Sure. I mean, there's always a chance that someone else can come in and do some ridiculous nonsense and undo what you've done, right? That's what Biden did when he came in after Trump. I think the first day in office or second day in office, whatever it was, he had executed more executive orders, just like with the swipe of a pen, changing laws than any other president in history. And so, I mean, it's entirely possible. But the thing that you have to think about is not possibility, but probability. So while it's possible, it's not probable once the market has adopted that massive changes would occur, right? So if you have a massive adoption and a strategic Bitcoin reserve, then you have a massive ecosystem that springs up around that, whether it's the investing world, whether it's the mining world, whether it's the transactional world, whether it's people who now believe that because the U.S. holds a strategic Bitcoin reserve, that we feel more confident in the economy, right? And all of these things are indicative or sort of instructive to new politicians, and they tell them how to behave, because a politician, you have to realize government is always behind the curve. Government is a reactive entity. It's not a proactive entity. So if you're a government agent and you want to maintain your power or get reelected, then you have to win the popularity contest, right? And if you go against too many people who believe that Bitcoin is the way forward, then you're not going to win the popularity contest and you're going to lose your job, right? If you could call government work a job. So at the end of the day, that's how this always works. Government's reactive. It's a popularity contest, and he who wins the popularity contest keeps his job. So it's just going to depend, in my mind, on a great deal of how much adoption occurs and how mainstream it becomes.
Yeah, I get that. I totally agree. And one more thing that happened 2 or 3 days ago. There is a little conspiracy, I think you've heard of it, about Jim Cramer, and people saying that whenever he does a prediction, the market goes the other way. And he said this time that all I can tell you is own Bitcoin. That's a winner, right before Bitcoin dumped. Do you think investors actually look at that kind of stuff and market makers and make decisions based on that?
On like talking heads like Jim Cramer?
Yeah, because I mean his like he has been hitting it lately, and whenever he says something, it actually the opposite happens. And it's I think the markets are actually a game of expectations, and when people expect it to go down, there might be traders who sell their positions.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the Kramer thing is pretty funny, right? Because I mean, I remember watching Kramer back in, oh shit, man, like 2004, 5, 2003, 4, 5, when I first started, earning some money, and I first started, like running my own money. Like I was running my own money in the stock market, and I'd be glued to all these financial, sort of television shows and all this kind of stuff. And then what shook me awake on this kind of thing was I had a friend of mine who worked at a boutique local investing company in Scottsdale, and they only do they run family money, right? Like, so families who had, multi-million-dollar net worths, they run money for them. And he sort of opened me up to this idea that I could take like $100,000 and I could multiply it in like a private equity deal with a land company. And so he started sharing all this information about this land company. And so as part of this introduction to private companies and private investing in private companies, he basically shared all of their internal conversations and conference calls with high net worth consulting agencies. And so when you would watch the news and then contrast that to the high level information that these guys are getting behind the scenes, you could pretty much see that it's night and day different information. Like the information that's going out to the public is basically stuff that is not actionable because it's either already happened or, you've already missed the boat. And it's almost like the Telegram channels where, you have a pump.fun coin and, or Wall Street Bets where you tell a bunch of people to go dump at a certain time. That's kind of what the mainstream financial channels are like. You've already missed the opportunity. Do you want to get in for the last 2% is the question, right? And if you want to get in for the last 2%, you take a huge risk when the thing dumps. But on the private side of those calls, those recordings, and all of that data, these people are getting in front of trends that are meant to last for decades, right? They're not looking at fucking Jim Cramer and MSNBC. Like, I remember in 2004, 5, whatever it was, and I was going through this information, like they were talking about investing in water. They were talking about investing in, oil production and nuclear, all the things that are becoming prevalent today. This was, 10, 15 years ago. And so that's how high net worth individuals think. They don't give two shits what's happening today in the market because they've already priced that in. Unless there's some sort of catastrophe like World War III, nothing really is going to change in the marketplaces in a drastic way. So they don't even look at this. And, like Buffett talks about this a lot. He talks about why he never moved to New York. And, he talks about needing a quiet place to think and how, like the best place for him to be in terms of making good decisions is away from all the noise. Because he's right. Like the noise is what scares people. And so right now in the crypto world, you've got, young investors mostly who have come into the marketplace and expect returns tomorrow and are watching markets every second of every day, creating fear and creating hype. And you see the fear in the curves, right? Like you'll see the curve just bounce. But you look at something that's more mature, like a stock market, or you look at like the most mature crypto, which is Bitcoin, and you don't see it fluctuate near as much as the altcoins because the level of understanding of how markets work is much higher in those places, right? So barring World War III or like a natural disaster that knocks out, half the world, you're not going to see a massive drop in well-established, mature markets.
When you check out, I mean, yeah, I think so as well. But when you let's talk a little bit about like emotions in the market. I know that you hold a couple of coins, and I know that you hold a decent amount as well. So when you are checking your portfolio or when you check the markets, and because I actually talked about that with my brother who has a pretty big crypto portfolio as well, and he was like last time when he checked, with altcoins going up, and he was like, oh damn, like the markets moved, and when they dump for like, I don't know, 3 or 4%, and you see, I don't know, $20,000 gone. Can you like, do you get emotional, or are you used to it and feel like, because we've talked about that plenty of times, that the crypto market is completely different to the stock market, and you usually don't see that volatility. So like, are you looking at these things emotionally, or can you like completely unplug from that and just stick to your pattern?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a level of emotion. The question is like, can you deal with it, right? I mean, I wish every single person who runs money has had to run a business or start a business or, like put money at risk in the real world. And the reason that I do this is because the reason I say this is because if you've ever run a business, you've taken on more risk than the average person will ever see in a lifetime. Because the average person works a job. The job guarantees them a certain amount of free time, a certain amount of work time, a certain amount of income, and it guarantees the government a certain amount of tax. And when you get your paycheck, the government has already taken its cut. You just get what's left over, right? In the business world, you have irregular cash flow. So one month, like in the gym business, for example, a CrossFit gym, like a small CrossFit gym, which was the business that we sold most recently, we had, 100 or so members paying $149, $150 a month. So monthly revenues range anywhere from $12,000 to $14,000, depending on what sales are. And like if we have something happen like COVID, where our membership went down to 5, and we go from a $14,000-$15,000 a month to a $500 month, then that's a huge risk to take on. Because the landlord still wants his rent, and everybody's still got to get paid and all the rest of it, right? And the average person that works a job doesn't understand that. They'll never experience that, right? So when it comes to emotionalizing or taking on the emotional sort of makeup of a person who's risk tolerant, it's not that you don't feel the emotion. It's that when the emotion comes, you deal with it in a different way, right? And for me, when I saw my gym business go to basically zero revenue because the government said we had to shut down for 6 months or whatever it was, my first thought was, okay, well, I've already been sued 3 times. I had to pay, $55,000 in lawyer fees. I've lost 70 acres of land. I've lost a house. I've lost all this stuff. And you know what? Hey, I'm all right. I still got stuff. I got, a few houses. I still own some land. I've got some money in the bank. I have a good partner. I have a wife, blah, 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 right? You just see it differently because you know that on the other side, you're going to be okay regardless of what happens, right? And that doesn't mean you want bad things to happen. It just means that you've been hit pretty hard and you got back up, right? So it's the same way in the investing world, right? Like the biggest hit we had in the investing world in the last few years was FTX. And FTX knocked the shit out of pretty much everyone that was playing the game because a lot of people had money in FTX. They used a lot of influencers. Guess what? We've got Shaq. We've got, fucking Matt Damon and whoever else doing ads for us, right? And what happened? Well, the fucking thing goes to zero. and guess what? A lot of people got suckered in by all this celebrity, right? I was fortunate. I didn't have anything in FTX, but I had stuff in, what was the other one? Like, was it not Binance, but BlockFi. I had money in BlockFi, which got taken out. I had money in Celsius, which got taken out, right? So I got hit a little bit, right? And, when this was happening, this drove the markets down to basically their lowest point. And the lowest point for Solana was around $8, right? Lowest point for Bitcoin in the cycle was in like the low teens, if I remember correctly. And I had started buying in like the 40s or 50s. I can't remember which during the last cycle. And it just kept going backwards and kept going backwards and then kept going backwards. And then FTX hits and it goes backwards even faster, right? And so, I was going to post this video the other day, but I can't record my Coinbase screen without changing the permissions for obvious security reasons. But it's just a transaction log of all my buys over the last 3 years. And for basically every day for the last 3 years, I bought. I literally made myself buy, right? And I could sit here and have a conversation with my wife and say, I know it's going to turn around because of adoption, blah, 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 blah. But I don't really know that. I'm just banking on the fact that it makes logical sense if I can just overcome the emotion and buy, right? So like buying Solana at $8 and $9 and $10 is like the best buy I've ever made. Because today, like it's a 25, 26x return. But, I had to make myself do that. Same thing with Bitcoin. I had to make myself buy it every day, all the way down to the low teens, right? And so if you don't have the ability or if you haven't seen the risk, that someone has taken on to create wealth or to create a business or to create a family or to buy real estate or whatever the thing is, if you haven't exercised that muscle, then yeah, you're going to get scared. And that's why you see these crypto markets fluctuating with crazy volatility, because you've got a group of people who have never put anything at risk in the real world. A lot of them still live in mommy and daddy's basement and play video games all day. And they don't have any sense of like what it's going to do to their lives if they lose, because there's somebody there to pick up the pieces. So when you know what that's like and you've overcome it, it's easy to look at the emotion and say, okay, well, I'm going to set the emotion aside and I'm just going to do what makes logical sense. And that's all I did over the last few years.
So, okay, so you were actually pretty lucky. I don't know if lucky is the right word here, but you could actually see when you took the risk and bought Solana at $8. You could actually see it going up, and you was like in profit all the time. But imagine anyone who has been very confident about Ripple, for example, and who put all his life savings into Ripple. And, we've seen Ripple going up recently a lot. Would you say that his behavior was right or not in the end? Because, I mean, maybe it is someone who has been doing a lot of research and who feels like Ripple is a project that is going to sustain for the next couple of years, and he thought it's going to go up. And at some point, I believe that person must have had some sort of disbelief at some point. But in the end, his decision turns out to be good. Like what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, Ripple is another one where it's again, you have to look at what makes logical sense, not emotional sense. Ripple is a religion, like a lot of these coins are. Meme coins are a religion. It's kind of funny as we're like talking about this. Flarn, one of our contacts on X, basically sent me this little manifesto about his shitcoin, which is basically written in like Bible verses, just kind of alluding to the fact that it's religion, right? Like it's religion if you think that your meme coin's going to $1 billion. Dog go to the moon, this rune, this is a religion. There's no reason for it to go. None whatsoever. Ripple had a great use case in the beginning, and I bought Ripple when it was 8 cents. So I'm very, I'm sort of very attuned to the whole Ripple thing. And I actually held it through the $3.50 range back in the day. Like, and I totally missed it. I could have picked up like 15 or 20 grand. But I let it come back down, but I still ended up selling my Ripple at like, I don't know, 40 cents or something like that, 30 cents. So I made like 3X, 4X on it. And this was when it, was under attack by the SEC. So at this point, like early on, before the Lightning Network, before all the L2s, when Ripple was created, it had a beautiful use case. And that was we can unite banks around the world to do business in real time by trading tokens on the XRP network rather than cash, right? We'll hold cash equivalents somewhere else and we'll settle up later, but Ripple can make your transactions happen lightning fast right now. And that's a beautiful use case. Okay, that was 10 years ago. Now we're in the spot where the Lightning Network exists, L2s exist. So Ripple's use case is basically zero. Like, who gives a shit? So like anyone who's buying Ripple right now is a fucking idiot, because at the end of the day, it has no use case anymore. It has been supplanted by other technologies, right? So I don't care about Ripple anymore, because the reason that it should run has been overtaken by other technologies, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but don't you think, all these CEOs in these companies do have a plan for that, trying to get a new USP? I mean, Cardano made that move trying to somehow get implemented into the Bitcoin ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like these are steps that can be taken to get new recognition and get new investors? And from a holder's point of view, do you think that's like convincing what they do?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is like the possible versus probable scenario, right? And this is the thing I wish more and more people would consider. It's possible that Ripple goes to $10, $20. I mean, I don't think it's probable, just because the supply is insane. What they have, like 100 billion XRP or something. So that in and of itself is a huge detriment to price action going much, much higher. And then you throw in the use case, and okay, let's say we all get together and decide we're going to find a new use case, or USP, unique selling proposition, for those of you guys who aren't familiar with that term. And we do that. Okay, well, now we have to either have created a new marketplace and be competing in a space that no one else is in, right? Or we're competing in a space where other people are already doing it and we have to gain market share. So again, possible, yes. Probable, no. Definitely not probable, right? And so when I'm looking at, like you asked me about Solana, you said like, oh, you're probably lucky to get Solana at 8. Well, maybe. Or maybe I just looked at the market caps of Solana and saw that it was one of the top 3 to 5 tokens at the time, and said, okay, well, once all this FTX nonsense goes away, everything will be fine. And so I didn't just like randomly buy Solana at $8. I bought it at 22. I bought it at 18. I bought it at 15, 14, 13. I bought it all the way down, right? So
yeah, okay. So I just meant that you obviously caught the bottom. If you tell me now that you basically DC8 all the way down, then okay, you probably would have bought it at 5 as well, right?
Yes, I would have, absolutely. Yeah. There's no universe where I would not have bought the token, because the technology was being adopted, and FTX was a temporary blip on the radar screen. But what you saw in the real world was, everyone assuming that the entire crypto universe was going to end because FTX went down, which is what created the opportunity.
Yeah, but I felt like back then when Solana had that huge drop, I felt like it was definitely a great price, a great entry, especially considering it was all because of FTX. But I felt like at that certain point there would have been a possibility that any other currency could take Solana's spot, and that was probably my issue too, because I felt like, okay, will the belief in that coin, will that come back, or will, like any other coin, maybe Cardano or whatever, or Polygon, take Solana's place?
It's not about belief. This is the thing I cannot get through people's head. It is nothing to do with belief. I don't believe in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana. I'm looking at what's possible for the use cases. Solana is not a currency, it's a technology. And so when you buy a Solana token, you're buying stock in a technology. That's all you're buying. Okay. So what we're banking on, and what I'm banking on, is that Solana's technology is going to continue to be adopted, right? And that's one of the reasons that I'm playing with code in Solana, so I can understand more about the technology and how it works. But Bitcoin is not that. Bitcoin is a technology and it has technical uses and it will be certainly expanded upon. But Bitcoin is becoming a property, a currency, something that you can trade in terms of holding real value. So, when you buy Bitcoin, you're not buying, like the Bitcoin organization, the Bitcoin, like whatever it is, like the Bitcoin board of directors doesn't exist. There is no company of Bitcoin, right? But when you buy Solana, you're buying the Solana Foundation and what they plan to do. When you buy Ethereum, same thing, right? So these tokens are just stock in a company. That's all they are. And whether or not they go up or down has nothing to do with my belief. I am basing my decision based on what I see potential adoption to be, and that's it, right? And if the potential for Solana's adoption goes away tomorrow, then I'm selling all my Solana tomorrow, and I'm putting it on something else, right?
Yeah, but in the end, I feel like, when I talk about belief, I mean, you talk about the technology and the adoption and everything, but adoption needs people using the blockchain, and that's why I feel like, were there enough people believing in the future so that they use the blockchain for their transactions, for their NFTs, for whatever, or would they, change their mind and went over to Polygon, for example? You get the point.
Yeah.
What I mean?
Yeah. So people aren't buying the blockchain. People don't give two shits about the blockchain, man. No one cares about the blockchain. What they care about is what's in it for them. And this is the thing, like Web3 will never understand this for whatever reason. The user experience continues to be shit. And this is one of the reasons that we're focused on like building some new user experiences right now. So like the user cares about what's in it for me. Can I collect artwork easily on Solana? Is it a smooth minting experience? Can I access my tokens? Can I stake and unstake in a very easy manner, right? Like all of these little things with just in the NFT world, for example, forget the technical world. That's a whole nother thing. But right, the end of the day is like, what is the user experience going to be? And if the user experience is good, then the user becomes your advertisement, right? Naval talks about this, right? Like you sell because you failed at marketing, and you market because you failed at product, right? And all of these cryptocurrencies, when you look at them, they've all failed at product, which is why they need hype cycles to have anyone buy this crap.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, in the end, when it comes down to how can people use it, will the project make it easy for people to use it? I just remembered right when you said it, that there was actually a project from Solana called Blinks, I think. When they tried to make NFTs buyable on X with one click and everything. Have never heard of it again. Like, do you think it's failed, or it's like people were not ready for that?
I think what it is right now, based on my limited experience, and again, my very limited experience with the coding so far, is that the documentation is on most all of these chains is pretty much garbage, and you don't have enough like coding examples out there really for the average person to pop in there and say, oh, okay, I can sort of duplicate what this person's doing. I can follow their lead. It doesn't exist that in that vein yet. And AI isn't at the point yet where you can just say, hey, AI, write me this code that touches the Solana blockchain. It'll spit out some code, but it doesn't always work. And sometimes when it does work, it doesn't work locally. So then you have to, there's all these hoops you have to jump through. So we're not at this point yet where like there's a clear series of examples on, how to do X, Y, and Z. And so, until that changes, you won't see a lot of adoption of new technologies because people haven't mastered the old ones yet, right? So Blinks, which is the technology that you're talking about, it hasn't gone anywhere, but it just hasn't been implemented a lot, probably due in large cause to the fact that it's very hard to learn a new, like sort of blockchain program, and implement it. And two, like you've seen it yourself, like how quickly do people in the NFT world learn a lesson? It's very, 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 very slow, right? Like meme coins are a classic example of how slow people can learn. You're going to get fucked if you play with meme coins, but how many people play with meme coins still? Most all of them, right? So I think it's just a combination of those factors, personally.
Yeah, that's probably the bitter truth. But talking about NFTs, we may jump into some topics Goodfellas related as well. So we've been talking a lot about increasing the user experience in our project because we've had several issues with Floppy Labs. People are not able to unstake, and I think there was an issue. I think our user Adam wrote about it. What was it, Adam? I think it was that Floppy Labs has a problem unstaking resized NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a little overview of what's been going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, sure. So basically, we've had a problem with Floppy Labs for a while now, whether it was staking or unstaking, or I think for the longest time, the problem was you couldn't upload a new hash list for staking, right? And then they fixed that. And then, of course, Metaplex has reformatted their NFT protocol to require less rent. And so because they can require less rent or less space on the blockchain, you can resize your NFTs, shrink the size, and then reclaim all the rent that you're using that you don't need to use because every account on Solana demands a certain amount of rent. Okay, so basically, if you went through and you resized everything, it somehow modified the metadata, and now the metadata that was associated with the NFTs that they were staking doesn't jive with the staking code that they've written, and they need to update that. So that's basically what's happening with that. And until they correct that, which I got a message earlier today saying that the dev was finally going to do something about it, then that's going to be, first on our list is to get all of our shit out of there. And the reason I'm saying that is because they're not committed to a good user experience. So for example, over a year ago, I asked them to set up variable staking for us. And the guy said, okay, send me your hash list and your rates. And I did that. And then 6 months later, still nothing has happened. And then when I complained again this year, still nothing had happened. So here we are, like over a year later, still nothing has happened with one of the most basic functions of like setting up a basic multiplication problem in the code, which they already support. So, at the end of the day, they're not committed to the user experience. So what I found out was that the dev is basically spending his time and energy on an AI project that he feels like has more potential, for him. And he's basically abandoned writing code or writing new code for Floppy Labs, which leaves the one guy who actually cares about the project kind of in a bad way because he doesn't write code, but he cares about the user experience. And as much as I have, borderline abused this guy, like in terms of just like letting him have it in terms of how I feel about this shit user experience that we've had, like he's still shown up, and he's shown that he has goodwill toward us. And so I got to give him a lot of credit and a lot of respect for staying in the fight with us and dealing with some of our attitudes, because the truth is, I mean, as much as they've earned the attitude, I'm not sure that I would have been as accommodating. But, hopefully they can get it fixed. And, our whole thing is we want our users to have a great experience. And, once we pull all our pieces off of there, we're going to have our own mint pages, our own token mint pages, and then, of course, a staking site that we own and control. So we're not, held hostage by a group of people, or a dev in this case, who doesn't really care about our experience or whether or not, our project succeeds or fails.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to our own mint pages, and we might see a little sneak peek in tomorrow's announcement. But the one question I want to ask is, from a user's point of view, I read that Metaplex gets, we all have had the possibility to resize our NFTs and get some of the Solana rent back.
Mm-hmm.
And I read that Metaplex gets all the rent back, all the rent that hasn't been claimed. So what does it actually mean, and why is that? Is it that like just the tokens or the NFTs that have been minted through Metaplex, or is it like all the NFTs on Solana blockchain? What is it?
It's actually really simple. Okay, so on pick a blockchain, right? It doesn't matter which one. You can create an NFT just in and of itself by putting a token on the chain, right? What Metaplex did on Solana was they created a standard sort of operating procedure, right? An SOP for what NFTs should look like. And then they packaged it up in a way that was easy for most people who understood how the blockchain works to access it and then create tokens in terms of sequential mints, right? And then they did a version 2, and then they did a version 3, and now they're to a version 4, which they're calling Core, right? Excuse me. And this is going to continue to evolve. They're going to continue to evolve their software. And every time they've evolved their software, they've made changes either to the metadata or to the code itself that runs off the metadata, or to the storage functionality. And in most cases, what they've done is they've been able to continually make it smaller and smaller. Well, if you put something on chain, in this case, in the case of Solana, it's usually just the metadata, and then the files are stored on a third-party server somewhere. That data that's on chain, if you can shrink it down more and more and more and more, then the account size, the rent that's required for that metadata gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And because because Metaplex has been responsible for establishing the standard of NFTs on Solana, pretty much all, 99% of NFTs on Solana are Metaplex NFTs. So they've given everybody basically 6 months to go through and say, hey, log into this website and resize your NFTs and get your own rent back. But at some point, we're going to cut this off because we want to move forward. And what they're doing is they're saying, 6 months out or whatever the cutoff date is, if you haven't resized by then we're going to run a routine on all remaining NFTs and we're going to claim the rent for ourselves, right?
Okay.
So, it makes perfect sense. And then if they do that, then of course, once the NFTs are resized, they can continue to evolve the tech that much more on a standardized set of tokens that lives on Solana.
I mean, it's actually a good thing considering, the quality stays the same, but it doesn't even touch the NFT the way I understood it.
Right.
But considering the amounts of, even dead NFT collections on Magic Eden and other marketplaces, it's probably hundreds or thousands of collections. They're going to make a shit ton of money, right?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's tons and tons and tons, millions, tens of millions of rugged NFTs out there that no one is even going to think about looking at. And every single one of those, figure, $1 or $2 once resize is done on every single one of them. Yeah, I mean, they're going to do pretty well.
Gotta get some Metaplex stocks.
For sure.
Well, I think we quite covered it all today, right?
I don't know if we covered it all, but we ran the gamut, that's for sure.
Yeah, we got through my list of points I wanted to talk about, and yeah, looking forward to these mint pages. I think there is a lot to come. We have some artists ready to create for our artist incubator, and yeah, the best is yet to come. And I think we are good for today, man.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. We'll go ahead and call it here, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye bye.